Hello there, I'm Moldy, and on Saturday, a ton of you joined us live where we rebuilt the Hoth AT-ST 75322, though, let's be honest, hardly any of us can actually remember the set numbers of some of these sets unless they really stand out for one reason or another. The main reason I actually rebuilt this model was because I got a comment not too long ago asking if I could add another bend to the legs. As we discovered in the live stream, the legs do work as a really fun play feature if you just have it running along the desk, but you can only stand it up in one position, and even in that one position, it's very fragile, and if you're not standing it on a solid desk or anything like that, it does fall backwards quite easily. So there's a few extra things we will be fixing whilst we are adding an extra bend to the leg. But for this entire AT-ST modification, I genuinely think the rest of the set is really cool. The only pieces you are going to need, if you're building this alongside with me, two of these hinge joints, which are the exact same that you'll find at the top of the AT-AT legs, and also two of these L brackets, which are just a 4x2 with the axle connection on the top. And it's so easy to fix this up. You don't even need any extra pins, though. I'm sure we have a ton of them laying around. So starting off with the left leg first, and I'll show you again with the right leg. You're just going to want to pop off some of this top of the leg to get to this red brick underneath, and then using your trusty brick separator, just poke that red 2-length axle straight through. You should be able to grip it at some point and pull it through. Not the easiest connection, but definitely nice to have that security in your build. And this is where we're going to be bringing in our first of the two new pieces, because we want to connect this L bracket straight in to that red brick, and it will make a bit more sense when we're putting it all together, but for now you can just put that to the side. And then we're going to want to deconstruct the bottom of this leg just a little bit more. We've got the 1x5, which is going to come out, and then we want to make sure we're keeping all of these pins and other connections, and we're going to want to pull this whole thing from this brick, and we're going to want to do a bit of swapping around on this brick. We just want to take off the 1x3 panel and swap which of these pins is at the end. So we want to move this bottom pin just down here with a stud on to the other side, and again it makes a bit more sense as we go through this, but what that then allows us to do is to put the blue pin on the other side. In fact, you could probably even put it in the middle. This is just how I have it drawn up on my screen, and this is what's going to connect to this connection here. Perhaps that's why I've got it at the far side. I can add an extra little bit of height to the AT-ST, and then we're going to use the two black pins on the correct size of the leg, because previously this is where the longer connection was coming down and straight into the leg. We're actually going to move both of these in one brick, and there is a little reasoning behind that. I think it does look better, but it also doesn't really affect anything in terms of the build. And then you can take this pin just here and connect it into the third clip down here, because it's not going to be going anywhere. It is a very tight connection. You might want to move around where it's studded in at the top. I don't think you'll get a perfect connection. It's just making sure that the leg isn't entirely different, and we want to try and keep as much of the pattern as we can. So it looks like this one probably isn't going to be possible. You could definitely include it on the back there, but for the sake of this video, we're just gonna leave it half in like that. In fact, we won't even put it back in. Just make sure you remember to cover up that blue axle with that towel. It's a shame we can't get this connection flush onto the leg, but there are definitely a few different places you could move that around, even probably flip it around so it connects to one of the other pinholes. Once you've decided what you were going to do with that extra little bit, you can then reconstruct the foot and do the exact same the other side. So once again, just to show you on the other leg this time, so this is going to be a mirror image to what we've just done. You want to take off these 3 connections here, which, as you can see, aren't always the easiest to take off, and sometimes they just explode. But it's really nice nonetheless, no matter how many explosions we have, that it is just these 3 chunks and we don't have to deal with any bracket work or anything too complicated in the foot of this AT-ST. We then remove this red 2-length axle and replace that entire leg with this piece that we've already prepared earlier. Again, a 4x2 L bracket of some sort of Technic lift arm, I'm sure is the technical term. We're connecting that in to go straight on with the other red brick. No idea what the name of this one is. I think for the sake of this video, we'll call it Jim. So Jim is just tightly packed in there. I'm going to have to find where the other bricks went in just a second. We can reconstruct the foot straight away because the rest of the work is needed to be done on this half here. And you do end up with 2 spare pieces, one of which being this Technic 1x5 and then the other one being this giant J bracket here, which can be really useful for any other Lego Star Wars mocks. Lego Star Wars definitely needs a bit of a Technic for some of these supports. Again, we're taking off the 1x3 here, and we want to remove, you don't even need a brick separator for this. You can use the blue piece we've just pulled out to remove this bottom pin here. That goes right up on top, just so we can replace the 1x3 without it wobbling around during play. We then put the blue pin just at the bottom there, and that enables us to secure, which way did I do it? I think I put it inwards like this, and that stops it from rattling around on here as well, this joint specifically. And then we're going to want to connect our 2 black pins here into the foot of the AT-ST Walker, and it really can't be any easier than that. I've played around with this connection just a little bit. It should probably go on the other way, and you can connect it into the foot of the AT-ST here. Again, there's probably some sort of friction, which is not going to be smiling down on that, but it does allow for all the movement we'll be needing for the sake of this video. And now we've added an extra hinge to our AT-ST, which, by the way, I did think this would be quite fragile to do to a model that is very much top heavy, but it actually stands up really well and there's no immediate sign of bending. So keep an eye on this if you are doing this mock at home. This allows us to position the AT-ST in quite a few different poses actually. The legs at the top are locked, so you can only clip once forward, which does mean they're not going to be able to take more than one little step. But by clipping it forward and putting the foot down, we're actually enabling this AT-ST to stand up with its leg forward, which it couldn't do before. And just to counterweight the balance of the AT-ST, we're then going to click this leg once back and the foot once up. Really, really easy to do. Let's see how solid it is when I let go. And it seems to stand up. It's not the most stablest of builds. You can definitely do better if you add a few extra parts from your parts inventory, and I urge you to do so because this is already such a really fun build. It's got the play feature of the head spinning, which I'll definitely have to try and bring out the power functions motor in a minute and see how fast we can get this head spinning. But before we do that, you can then return it to its natural resting position by straightening the legs up exactly how they were, and they're a bit closer in to the AT-ST, which I feel like the reason they weren't initially is because of balance. There's really no other reason they would spread out the legs of a vehicle wider than they needed to be unless they were worried about how this thing would balance. But I've moved them 1 brick in on each side and there doesn't seem to be any problems with it, and the feet actually line up perfectly to the legs, which is an extra bonus. But whilst we were in the stream on Saturday, we were speaking about anniversaries. This year is the anniversary of Empire Strikes Back hitting its 45th anniversary, Revenge of the Sith is hitting its 20th anniversary already, and The Force Awakens is 10 years old. And you may remember for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, we got a special brick with a few of the sets. It's not something LEGO do a lot for all of the anniversaries, but it is really nice when we do get a special brick commemorating the anniversary of especially one of the original trilogies, because it's got that massive number atop it. So for 45 years of Empire Strikes Back, I decided to make my own. We've now seen the official images of the AT-AT as of recording this section of the video, and I'm afraid there isn't going to be one of these bricks in that set, but it doesn't stop us from making our own. I've taken some inspiration from the Return of the Jedi one with the black and red similar color scheme, and whilst I don't have access to any of that shiny silver color that LEGO use, light bluish gray is reflective enough in this lighting that it appears to be at least a little bit shiny. So you could see what LEGO could have given us alongside this. It's only one brick, so they probably didn't even give it some thought, but hopefully we can get something like this for the 50th anniversary. But I haven't even spoken about the minifigures of this set. The 4 minifigures we get in the original Hoth AT-ST are the Imperial Viper probe droid. We get an AT-ST pilot, really nice uniform. I do believe still the only time we've seen this nice white uniform for the AT-ST pilot. We've also got one of these rebels here, which you'll see is holding a head. We'll look back to that in a minute, because Chewbacca here with the snow-covered fur is the reason I picked this up day one, full price, likely through lego.com, just so I could get a few points back on my purchase. But Chewbacca, definitely really nice of LEGO to give us a snowy Chewbacca. There's no real reason LEGO needed to do this, but it does bring me on to the minifigure missing from this set, and the minifigure I will be displaying alongside the rest. You've seen him by now, by the time I've managed to fit him down on the display. Han Solo in his brown Parker jacket, which, is it brown? Is it blue? We've got a few different variations. This is from a poly bag from like 10 plus years ago, but looping back to this Rebel Trooper minifigure, the reason I've got the extra head in her hand is because this is the head of Kazuto Xiono and of Batman, of Draco Malfoy, and also the other Rebel Trooper from the blister pack. The head that this minifigure has is really cool, and I'm definitely going to be nicking that for some custom minifigures down the line. So after picking up the new rubber caped Batman, I kind of own a minifigure from the blister pack. I'm on my way to trying to get the other two, and I might end up just decaling other minifigures because they're not the easiest to get. They're not super expensive, they're just not super cheap either. And now we have 5 minifigures, 1 modified and 1 got from an old poly bag to go with our walk-in AT-ST. And you would have seen this just out the front on the live stream on Saturday, where we actually did talk a load of Empire Strikes Back sets. I just wanted to go over a few of the Empire Strikes Back sets and a few that I didn't even talk about in that stream, with the brand new AT-AT helmet coming out, which will look really cool with any sort of Hoth displays, but especially that UCS AT-AT itself. We were talking about other helmets we could get, and I've been thinking of a few new ones since then. So in the stream, we covered the Snow Troopers, of course, the AT-AT. We got even the Rebel hats that they wear at Hoth would be really cool. We've already seen Darth Vader, we've already seen Boba Fett. They are also other cool helmets we've already got from Empire Strikes Back. And other helmets we could get could take a more artistic approach to this LEGO collecting hobby, with the Emperor's hood with a little brick built Emperor underneath, exactly like we see in the very first Empire Strikes Back, would be really cool, though they'd probably go after Ian McDiarmid. And then we've also got Viz as well, which is a really nice rounded off helmet with a little face that you can add to it if you feel like it, similar to the old BB-8 style murals that LEGO did around the time of the sequels. But it's not just helmets we could get. We could get a few midi-scale ships. We've already got the Super Star Destroyer, which I think is the big one from Empire Strikes Back. We've already got the Falcon as well. We could get a Cloud City Bespin, not quite a postcard, but similar to how Lego do the postcards. We could get something like that for Star Wars, which would be very interesting. Other than that, there's not a lot we haven't already got from Empire Strikes Back. We've got a Hoth Master Builder series. We've got a Cloud City Master Builder series. I guess we could get a little playset of the slugs, but even the space worms have been brick built at some point by Lego. So Empire Strikes Back is quite clearly the most popular of the original trilogy movies, just based on the fact that if it exists in that movie, there is merch on it. I would like to get probably a more detailed Bespin hallway would be quite good, especially if it looked anything like the Tantive boarding or one of those almost dioramas, more so displays. We could definitely get a few more sets around Dagobah as well. That dark side cave would make a really, really fun playset. And that brings us on to our final helmet as well. Almost forgot to mention, Dark Side Cave, Luke Skywalker in Darth Vader's suit. I guess they've already done Darth Vader's, but just add Luke's face to the front. We just want a few faces with these. We've already got the X-Wing helmets as well, so the likes of Wedge Antilles aren't looking likely, though Wedge probably has the most varied colour when it comes to X-Wing helmets compared to Red 5. The only other face that I can think of that would be really cool to get brick built is Lobots, and that's mainly for the computers that go around the head. Even if they just brick build that as part of an accessories pack, give us Lando's blaster, a bit like the villain set or the headwig on the top of all the books. That might look pretty good for Empire Strikes Back. But besides that, I think going with the helmet, which Lego may be doing, there'll be news on that soon, when Lego unveil the official set, is a really, really good choice. So let me know what you think of this AT-ST Walker. I think it's a lot better now. We can still run it along the desk if we want to, but we can actually stand it up with a few of the extra hinges that we've put into the ankles of this AT-ST. And I think that just makes it so much better. I might actually keep this one built and try and rebuild my AT-ST and see if we can fix that one up in the near future. But before I wrap up this video, don't forget, this Saturday we will be going live again building the Acclimator. So go over there, be sure to set your notifications up, and I hope to see a ton of you there. Until then, may the bricks be with you always.